I'm going to be sharing with you in this video how to fall in love with the flow of life and how actually life is meditation, and also how all attachment leads to suffering. How you can take these ideas, take these spiritual concepts, which actually just what life is, and take them in a way that's going to help you in your life in the most practical way possible to make your life actually effortless and easeful, the way that I believe it's actually meant to be. So, if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell, because I do actually post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, the only way to do so right now is by booking in a single session. You can book that by hitting the link that's in the description box of this video. It's also going to be in the comments of this video as well. Now, the first thing that I want to share with you is a concept that I'm not the first person definitely to share this concept, but it's the idea of falling in love with movement itself. And I don't necessarily mean physical movement, although it can be. But the thing to understand is that life and energy doesn't stay stuck. Okay, so I found that, like, in my experience, life is kind of designed in a way where energy is not meant to stay stuck and stagnant, right? It's not meant for that. It's not meant to stay stuck. It's meant to be in like this sort of continual flow and movement. That's kind of how life wants you to go, right? Life doesn't want you, and I know that how that sounds so arrogant. It's like, oh, you're saying this is how life works. It's like, it's just what I realize. It's like when I try to stay stuck in like one particular way, right? One way. And yes, we are trying to achieve these particular states, but at the same time though, when you try to attach to one state, like even if you try to attach to like a spiritual state, it's such a there's so many paradoxes here. Life will kind of have its way with you. Life will have its way with you when you don't honor the fact that life wants to be always in movement. You will suffer. So I found that what I really want in my life, like there's been many things that I thought that I wanted, like this one particular relationship, right? Or this exact amount of money, right? Or this one particular way of life, this one thing that I think I need, right? And every single time that I've done that, life kind of showed me like, hey, like you got to stop being attached to this one thing that you think you need, you know? And what I found is that true peace is about falling in love and falling into that joy and that peace with simply just enjoying the movement of life itself. Because infinity and life, again, it sounds arrogant for me to like use these words and to say like I know everything. That's not my intention here. It's just that what I've noticed is that life kind of wants you to experience as many different things as possible from as many different points of view as possible, right? As many different points of view as possible. So it's like think about it like this. Do you really want this one particular experience that you think you need? Don't you want to diversify and not be attached to one thing or one way, and to kind of be a shapeshifter moment to moment? Be like water, right? Be like water. Be in flow. How much more fun is that? Because if you get stuck in a loop of doing extremely similar things, and I'm talking like, I'm not saying that you can't have like a discipline of some sorts to do similar things on a consistent basis, but you can do even those same things in a different way. So if you're trying to become a professional piano player, good example, you don't want to be attached to like one song, like this one song that you think you need to complete now. How about diversifying your art? There's many different songs that you could play, many different skills many different, think about how many nuances there are, how many particular nuances there are to becoming a masterful piano player. And that doesn't contradict when I say like stop doing the same thing every single day, like in my videos. Actually becoming a masterful piano player and becoming very nuanced and learning all these different nuanced skill sets would not be in contradiction to falling in love with the flow. And that doesn't mean that you're doing the same thing every single day in terms of like the vocabulary that I use. Right? Does that make sense? So it's about like doing things a little bit different every single day. Like just getting like out of your comfort zone. But again, I don't like to personally use that vocabulary because I found that expanding and getting out of my comfort zone, there's actually an ease and effortlessness that comes with that. Whereas when you're attached to doing something in the exact same way every single time you do it, you start to create resistance. So it's very interesting how you would think that, for example, let's just say you've never used your left hand before, right? It's going to feel a little bit awkward. It's going to feel a little bit weird. But in a way though, there's less resistance when you try something new. Whereas if you keep doing something the exact same way, the energy starts to get stuck, right? The energy gets stuck. And that's life's way of showing you that it's time to do something a little bit different. Does that make sense the way that I'm saying that? So the key is to fall in love with the actual concept or idea of movement itself, right? Actually moving into a new direction. Okay, so that's the first concept that I have for you here. Now, the second thing that I want to share with you in this video in terms of how to fall in love with the flow of life and how life is meditation and how all attachment leads to suffering, which is again like a Buddhist concept, but I want to bring it like down to earth here. Number two is to never let a spiritual concept or any concept for that matter, any kind of concept, go against your true feelings and intuition, how you truly feel. See, I found that you can really start to get a sense for how you really, really feel in a particular moment, in every single moment, which goes against that particular pattern or way of being that you think you need, right? That you need to keep doing. So when you stop attaching to like this one thing that you think you need to do, right? That you think is what you need to keep being on loop and repeat of, right? What happens is that it could even be like a spiritual concept, spiritual ego, right? I need to keep meditating in this posture every single day. I do meditation personally, consistently, but sometimes I can sense right now in this moment, right now, I don't need to be meditating. And my true intuition is saying actually the better thing to do, the most spiritual thing to do would be not to meditate. Because if there's a concept in your idea that you think, for example, that's just one example. It could be many different things in your life. For me, this is just a personal example. Where you think you need to be meditating, that's a concept. That's a concept. When actually maybe something more in alignment with that would feel less resistance and bring you closer to the present moment and bring you closer to that flow of life would actually be to go do something else. Maybe it's just to whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter. Like you can, there's infinite possibilities in every single moment, right? So the idea here is to never let a concept or idea go against this sort of natural kind of like intuitive intelligence that is kind of guiding you to go in a certain direction, right? If you get, like, for me personally, it almost feels like a little, like my, I don't know if this is going to resonate for people in the way that I'm communicating this. It almost feels like my higher self is like kind of pushing me like in a certain direction. It's just like, oh yeah, like go in this direction, because if you don't, you're going to stay stuck. It's like a push, but it's a loving push. It's not a negative push. It's a, and here's the thing, it's so, and I really think it's like some higher intelligence of the universe, because it's like, if you really don't listen to this intelligence, that's fine. You will be unconditionally loved. But the consequence of that, to not listen to your intuition and to attach to a concept, what's the consequence of that? Well, nobody from the higher realms is going to come and punish you. Nobody is going to judge you, really. Ultimately speaking, you may receive external reflections of judgment, but ultimately, the consequence of that will be your own suffering. And that's what I believe karma actually is. Karma is believing you need to be stuck in a particular state, and I don't mean presence, that deeper presence. I mean some physical state, right? And you believe that you need to stay stuck there. Now, what is the consequence of that? It will be an intense feeling of dissatisfaction and resistance and ultimately suffering, right? And that would be, in that case, a self-created suffering, right? A choice almost, even though it may not seem like that sometimes. So what I'm inviting you here to do, and you can do whatever you want, is ultimately to never allow some concept to go against your true feelings. And I'm talking about like a deeper feeling, right? Not necessarily some emotional like reactivity, if that makes any sense. Now, the third and final thing that I want to share with you in this video is to trust what you, and this has just been kind of like a little affirmation that has been very useful for me. So I wanted to share it with you. It's number 3, trust what you actually feel you need moment to moment. Really trust that. Really, really trust that, right? Like, what do you really feel you need in this moment? And yes, sometimes it's good to ask your mind what you think you need. That can be useful. But I believe that, in my experience, personally, it's important to not always listen to the mind, because the mind can keep us stuck and actually not step into this natural flow of life. It's very natural, right? Like, it is a meditative state that is not dependent on maybe necessarily a spiritual practice. And again, I do personally meditate consistently, but I've also found the limitations of attaching to, for something like a meditation, where really there's something else that my body needs, that my deeper intelligence within me is communicating to me through my deeper senses. Although it's not necessarily like my senses, right? Although the senses are included in what I'm communicating here, but it's something deeper than your 5 senses. Something a little bit deeper. It's this deeper capacity and intelligence where you can kind of trust that there's something that you need. It's like, it's very intuitive, right? And when you trust this, you will find that sometimes you can slow down. Sometimes things speed up. It all depends on the present moment, right? Sometimes I will be very fast paced and very fast movement, and sometimes things slow down, right? It all depends. but I've learned to not attach to my feelings and trust in that deeper intuition, which you could call it a feeling, but it's not quite so. It's not quite so, right? Limits of language here is tricky here. It's tricky because it includes the five senses, but at the same time, though, it actually transcends the five senses. So it's just the paradoxical nature of life itself. So when you learn to trust, in my experience, what you need moment to moment, what begins to happen is that you get back into falling in love with life, right? Any sort of intense feelings of like depression or negativity that I used to have in my life would only come about when I wouldn't trust what I really needed moment to moment. Okay? And with that, I conclude this video.